You're listening to another episode of the Coaster101 podcast. I'm Andrew Stillwell, joined this week by a very special guest. Very proud to call him a friend. He is an industry veteran. He is an IAAPA ambassador. He is a barbecue aficionado, co-host of the Corkscrew Convos podcast, and a brand activation manager for Carowinds, my home park. We talk about Carowinds a lot, but it was long overdue for me to get this lovely gentleman on the podcast, Chris Keith. Chris, welcome to the Coaster101 podcast.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me on.
You know, this is, again, it's a long time coming. You and I were talking before I started recording. I think you've made a cameo appearance in the Coaster101 podcast lore. We did an episode on Dark Coaster, which, depending on how far back you want to go in your feed, I think Chris was interviewed. I definitely remember I was interviewed for Corkscrew Convos. He was interviewed for the Coaster101 podcast. We both kind of did man on the street type interviews when we went up to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg to ride Dark Coaster. But I've said it for years and threatened and made it happen. So I'm really, really glad that you're joining us this week.
Yeah, it's been so much of a pleasure. I mean, before we go any further, I have to put a little disclaimer out there. I bit my tongue very hard earlier today. So I don't know I don't know how the words are going to come out now. If the words don't come out right, I'm just explaining myself ahead of time, but I'm thrilled to be here, Andrew, on the official Coaster101 podcast. I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time, and here it is finally.
We need to work on getting you some more aspirational goals. That's all I'm going to say. But for those of our audience who may not know who Chris Keith is, like I mentioned, industry veteran. What's your story? I mean, you've had some really pretty fun stops on your career path so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. What's your story? I guess I like theme parks and roller coasters and stuff like that. I like theater. See a national tour of a musical occasionally. Just saw Back to the Future, the musical, when it came through Charlotte, and that was a blast. But I really do like the roller coasters, as I'm assuming you and many of our listeners do as well. And I realized in high school after taking calculus that is not something that was going to really work for me long term. So I wasn't going to be an engineer. I had to figure out something else. But I wanted to figure out if I had a place, a foothold, something like that in this whole attractions industry, because I do really appreciate not only the big steel and wooden roller coasters that are out there, but also the theme parks that house them and the experiences that they offer, where, of course, it's the roller coasters there that brought me in, but when I was able to really appreciate the theme park experience and the seasonal events and the entertainment and the streetmosphere and the food and the novelty offerings and the fun merchandise and even sometimes pins at different parks here, it really brought it all together and said, wow, this is really something that's fun and something that I'd like to be a part of in some form. So my first job was working at King's Dominion out there in Virginia, where I was a ride operator for a little roller coaster called Dominator. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
Oh, I have. Very familiar.
Yeah, I mean, it's only the world's longest floorless coaster. No big deal. But I also operated the Berserker, which was a 1984 Intamin looping starship. And that was something too. I mean, I was essentially a pirate in that role, where it's this big pirate ship, and I was climbing, checking restraints, doing that sort of thing. And I felt very much like a pirate in that role, where I'd be checking the lap bars, checking the over-shoulder restraints, getting ready to dispatch, watching the pirate ship rock back and forth, go to and fro and upside down. And I was like, wow, this really is a piratey role. So a little while later, I figured out some other roles. Had an internship at Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia, a park that I really do enjoy. Spent a summer there with a little roller coaster called the Loch Ness Monster. The legendary Loch Ness Monster. And, of course, the little flat ride next door called Little Clyde's, which I enjoyed as well because it's almost like a carousel because you rode horses and then you were able to sort of go up and down, but I wouldn't classify it as a carousel. But I mean, it's a little kiddie ride. It's not something that adults could ride too, but that was a fun time too. And again, it was cool to see how they did things at Busch Gardens. And I really enjoyed my summer there as well. I mean, it was a hot summer there, working Loch Ness Monster. This was before they spent all that on the Legend Lives On with the Loch Ness Monster. But it was a great time too, and a great formative experience to be as an intern there too.
Yeah, have you gotten back up to experience the new show elements and the new theming and the reimagined Premier Rides track?
I have ridden the legendary Loch Ness Monster, The Legend Lives On. No, but Loch Ness Monster, The Legend Lives On. I think that's their official name that they're calling it now. I got to ride that in May, I think right around Mother's Day, and that was a good time. I got to hear all the audio that they added to it, the different little show scenes, the screen that they put in the tunnel as well. The figure that they put right there by the second loop. I mean, I had spent many an hour with that roller coaster, so I knew it very well. I knew the queue, and then here they go. They plussed it. They added so much more to it, and for such a classic ride, I was glad to see that they could do that.
I love that. And then I've got your bio here in front of me. You spent some time at America's Roller Coaster Cedar Point as well?
Yeah, I was an intern there where I did some things in guest services and special events here and there. That was, again, a really fun role because that was an opportunity to live right there, sort of across the water from Cedar Point, where we had those that housing opportunity of other interns and people that were just working Cedar Point for the summer and were ready to put on the experience that is a day at Cedar Point. And that was really special as well. I was able to do different things where I wasn't in a ride operator role, so I got exposure to a lot of different elements to what it is to operate and work on a theme park event and things like that, and things like guest services, lost and found, the call center as well too. There is a very small chance if you called Cedar Point over the summer of 2018 that you might have gotten me saying, "Thank you for calling Cedar Point. This is Chris. How may I help you?" And so a lot of skills were learned there. So I really did appreciate my time there too, but it only lasted the summer because it was an internship. I headed west right after that for Disneyland.
I love that. So this is college time frame. Were you part of the Disney College program?
Yeah, this was my last semester of eligibility for college program because I had graduated that spring. Then I spent 3 or so months at Cedar Point, and then it was the fall semester following that I said, you know what? I always hear about the Disney College program. I know it's going to be a lot of work. Why don't I give it a try and do it and figure out how they do things at Disney? And it was an opportunity, to be in Southern California. So I was going to take that opportunity as well. And it was a great experience as well there too. I was in a rides-focused role as well, again, where I first trained on to a ride, another legendary ride, if I may say so, called the Storybook Land Canal Boats.
Ooh.
And that was where I spent a lot of my time there. I'd work on different rides and opportunities throughout there, like with the theaters in Fantasyland, or sometimes the guest and crowd management around the parades or fireworks and things like that. And it's a small world, Big Thunder Mountain, stuff like that too, briefly. But most of my time and my heart belonged to the Storybook Land Canal Boats, because that was a ride that you just got to drive a little boat around the channel and tell stories. And that was a good time. I really enjoyed that.
So you were spieling on the Storybook Land Canal Boats, or whatever the preferred nomenclature term is.
I was a storyteller and captain, if you will. And it was a good time because, like you said, I love talking sometimes. I think that's fun. And I really appreciated the opportunity to be in a role where I could really contribute to the guest experience on a given ride. Everybody, I feel like, always says, "Oh, it'd be fun to be a Jungle Cruise skipper," but I don't know about that, because if the jokes are landing, I feel like that would be a good time. But with so many people riding these attractions at Disney, it's inevitable that sometimes they might not speak English to the degree that would be required to understand these jokes. And I imagine it'd be a mixed bag a lot of times, where if you're a storyteller at the Storybook Land Canal Boats, everybody recognizes Agrabah, and they know who lives there. They know who's in that lamp that you're asking them to make a wish as they pass by. They know who is right over there in the castle in Arendelle, and that ice castle as well on the hillside right behind it. So to be evoking memories from those stories instead of maybe telling jokes, I ultimately was happy that I was in that spieling role, because, like I said, I got to work with some of the best stories around, and that was a good time.
Yeah, and I don't want to, plug your appearance on our podcast with an article that I happened to write, but recently I ranked the top 15 slow-moving water dark rides in the country, and I'm trying to look where the Storybook Land came in at 6th.
What? Okay, follow-up question, point of order. Where did Livin' with the Land come in?
Number 1.
Okay. That makes sense, at least. I can respect that, the number 1 slot. But what did you have at number 2?
Flooded Mine at Silver Dollar City, which I have not personally experienced myself, but when you add the interactivity to a slow-moving water dark ride, I feel like you're in for a win there.
Now, here's where we park our cars in different garages. I feel like Flooded Mine, great ride, classic. It's fun. People have decades of memories of riding Flooded Mine. But we got to get you on the Storybook Land Canal Boats if you haven't ridden. We got to get me to come out of retirement and be your storyteller and captain. In fact, hold on. Dear listener, you're going to have to hold on for a minute. I'm going to give you a preview. Hello and welcome to our journey into Storybook Land. My name is Chris, and I'll be your captain and storyteller today aboard the Aurora. For your safety, please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs down and inside the boat. And please watch your children so that our story doesn't take any unexpected turns.
See, I feel like you've done this a time or two, so now we got to go west. We have to do this.
I think I did the math once. In my time at Disneyland, I think I went around on those boats more than 11,000 times.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty solid, considering you were just there for a semester for your college program.
Well, I stayed after the college program as well. I figured there's some more meat on this bone. There's more that I could figure out with Disneyland, and eventually became a lead there and a trainer too at the Storybook Land Canal Boats to be able to work with other cast members early on in their roles there and help them to tell those same stories, which I really appreciated too. So I was there for about a year and a half or so, spent most of my time at the Storybook Land Canal Boats, and certainly told a story or two in my day.
I love it. And then we're coming up on the time frame now where you and I, we've kind of cross paths for the first time. And like I said at the beginning of the show, very pleased and honored to call you a friend. But we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary, and when this drops, this will drop Tuesday. The 3-year anniversary of this tweet is actually Thursday, August 1st. There was a tweet from your podcast that you host with our buddy Dalton, DJ, if you will, Corkscrew Convos. Go give it a listen. There was a 8:41 p.m., August 1st, 2021, a tweet from Corkscrew Convos. How many likes to get at Stillwell, which is my Twitter handle, on the pod? And while we were discussing this, you asked me how many likes it had. It had 0. But I also, at that point, and then, and also at this point now, I don't command that level of demand. I was like, yeah, let's do this. You, DJ, and me, whatever the proper grammar is here. We're not too stickler for it. We had a little B&M coaster draft. And then I believe the following week I was up at King's Dominion where you had returned for your first kind of, you were back on the East Coast. You were back working at King's Dominion. I think that was for the Tumbili announcement media day, I believe. But, you were King's Dominion for a little bit. You were at the Cartoon Network Hotel up in Pennsylvania. Some lovely roles there. But you've come to my neck of the woods now. We are both Charlotte adjacent, or Charlotte natives, Charlotteans, if you will.
Charlatans, if you will.
Charlatans. Thank you. See,
I don't know if that's really what to say. But
residents of the Queen City.
Exactly.
But you are the brand activation manager at Carowinds. And in the sense of corporate America, titles are very fancy things. We love them. They sound amazing. What does a brand activation manager do?
Well, that's a good question. And like you're talking about corporate America, I feel like there are buzzwords out there that sometimes we throw out a lot. And oftentimes, if we're trying to really communicate it, it helps to go in a little more detail about that. I mean, activation itself, I think that's one of those words where if you're talking about like facilitating and things like that there too, there's a lot of big words that we could say, but ultimately it's about making it happen and making these connections come together. Because with brand activation, it is making sure that the brand is doing what it needs to do at the park level. So that can be a lot of different things. Like, let me pull up my resume, because sometimes it is tough to really communicate everything that's included in a day, just in purely how variable the nature of our business is, day to day, week to week, season to season, year to year even. And we're about to get into that too. But it can be a lot of in-park business, marketing, and working on those season pass upgrades where, if you upgrade today's ticket, it gets you to a good season pass and allow you to continue the fun at Carowinds all year long, of course. Now, I'm not going to slip into my my sales role here, but it's an example there.
Real quick point of reference. Earlier in the year, the Carowinds Silver Pass paid for itself in how many visits?
In just 2 visits, and it really speaks to the value of a 2024 Carowinds Silver Pass. Now that you got me started, I can't stop.
I know it.
Because when you look at a day at Carowinds, I mean, sure, you could have a great time at the park in one day this summer, but if you wanted to come back all season long, that affords you the flexibility of being able to just pop in for a couple hours even. Because, of course, in the summertime, you got a million things going on. It can certainly be hot out, or maybe there's some storms in the forecast later on in the day, as we've had a lot recently. And to be able to have that season pass, that is the flexibility that affords you. It includes parking with your season pass. You get, see, you asked for this, so that you're getting it now. You get the bring a friend discounts as well, depending on the day. It'll get you a good deal on those too. Exclusive discounts on merchandise and food and beverage in the park too. And we covered unlimited visits through Labor Day. That's a silver pass for you. But let's talk about Carowinds and Winterfest. No, we'll get to those a little bit later, but you get those with the gold pass. Gold pass for those.
I love it. But you've worked on some pretty good some partnerships outside of the park as well. One that I personally saw that I'm a big fan of. Again, it's meant to feed a crowd, but it's this McDonald's meal, which it comes in a special Carowinds McDonald's box. It's a couple of cheeseburgers, 20 McNuggets, 2 medium fries, all for $12.99. And you get a Carowinds discount with that too. When you're putting something like that together, how does that conversation go?
I was so happy to see that come together this year, because to be able to work with McDonald's, I mean, in terms of the fast food market, they are number one. So to be able to have a piece of that activation, if I may, I don't think I'm using activation correctly, but to activate with McDonald's, that's the appropriate use of it. To activate with McDonald's over the summer season, I think that was a very valuable opportunity. And it's been great to see what they've been able to do with that and having this bundle box, because in a similar sense where they may have a limited time offer for like a meal related to Monopoly, or a meal related to a new movie coming out there, like the Minions even, with the kids' meals. or even an artist meal that they've done over the last couple of years as well. It's this meal that's cultivated and sort of picked out by your favorite artist that you can then order through the mobile app. We were sort of able to get a piece of that with Carowinds this summer. And it was so fun for that to come together, where, like you said, they had a very competitively priced bundle meal there too, with 2 cheeseburgers, 2 fries, 20 McNuggets. That was so much fun. I mean, we were able to work with our in-house design studio to sort of think through, how would we represent Carowinds on a bundle box? What would we want to talk about there? What could we put out there that would make people want to seek out that box and say, I need to get one of those too? I mean, I was already planning on going to McDonald's, but now I see this Carowinds meal there too. Let me get one of those, please. So they did a great job about it, where one side of the box is sort of a celebration of all things Carowinds, where if you think about the Carowinds experience, we would want you to visualize what's on this half of the box, where there's a roller coaster there, there's slides, there's some rides for the little ones as well. Different things that pop in through there, including one of the new rides from Aeronautical Landing that opened last year. So it's a little bit of everything. And I think they did a great job on communicating what it is to have a day or so at Carowinds there too. But on the reverse side of that box, we were able to talk about Carowinds Summer Music Fest amplified by Coke Studio, which is the big new thing this summer. It's a music festival, a series of headlining concerts in the Palladium, live music around the park as well on select days. So we had to include that as well, because it's such a big deal for us. And we were so excited to share that as well, and to sort of literally have a billboard in every McDonald's by having this box there too. And people are able to come to McDonald's, say, yeah, could I get one of those Carowinds boxes, please? And then they'd be served with both the Carowinds experience message, but also the Carowinds Summer Music Fest amplified by Coke Studio message as well. But to be able to sort of have the beautiful motif, I think, of a roller coaster but built out of a music staff, I think that went a long way for us too. And if you look on the website, you'll see that similar design motif as well. A lot of the in-park signage too, you'll see that. And I think that really communicates it, because you have the roller coaster experience of a day at Carowinds. You get to ride, slide, do whatever you want to do. And then, oh yeah, now you get to see Leanne Rimes or Flo Rida or even Sugar Ray, which is coming up this Saturday here too with Better Than Ezra and Tonic. I mean, there's so many options here to have a fun time at Carowinds, and to distill that into a box that contains cheeseburgers and fries and nuggets. What else could you want?
Exactly. What more could you ask for? So, and then I know you did another partnership you're pretty proud of, and we don't have to talk fully in depth on this, but I know our good buddies down at Charlotte FC, the Major League Soccer club, for those who are not as Charlotte in tune, because we are highly niche. This is a very Charlotte niche podcast right this second. But Charlotte FC has they've done some advertising. Carowinds has done some advertising at the stadium. Charlotte FC has done some advertising at the park. And you guys have you've put together a little video series of the boys on the boys in blue experiencing some of Carowinds attractions.
Yeah, I mean, that was so much fun, where we have a great relationship with Charlotte FC. We recognized how great of an experience they offer as well to families in the Charlotte area. I mean, just like Carowinds, we love to serve families and give them something to do on a nice summer afternoon or something like that too. So in some ways we exist in the same space, and in others we have ways that we could support each other as well. So to be able to work with Charlotte FC and find fun opportunities like that, where literally Captain Ashley Westwood, the captain of Charlotte FC, he was right there riding Fury 325 with us. We got it on camera. We were able to support that on our shared social media posts. It's on FunTV as well. Once an hour, you will see riding Fury 325. There may be a couple other things to be revealed on what else they did during their day at the park with us. I mean, it's such a fun opportunity, and to be able to have Charlotte FC represented in the Carowinds experience, I think it makes a lot of sense because this is their third season right now. They are on a rising tide. It's incredible to see them sell out all of Bank of America Stadium a couple times a year. It's such a fun match day experience as well. I have to learn the terminology too. But in turn, then we are also sometimes in the match day experience with a Carowinds message that you may see now and again on the LED ribbons or with a gold pass giveaway before the match, things like that, that really just made sense to come together.
I love it. While I've got you, I know you can't speak to this, but you're a longtime fan of the legacy Cedar Fair Park, now Six Flags Entertainment Company. Part of that FunTV that goes way back at this point, I don't know if they still air it or not, is the Cash Coaster, which is a play on the Cash Cab. Can you put a word in with anybody at corporate to bring that back and then also have me on as the first guest?
Let me see what I can do. I can sort of picture that segment. I can't remember the last time that I've seen it on FunTV. Do you remember what coasters they were on? Was it Diamondback?
It might have been Diamondback or Banshee at Kings Island. I believe they were all filmed kind of up there. So if they get around to Carowinds, let me know. I will gladly answer trivia questions. I don't even need to keep the money. I just need it for the ego.
What sort of trivia would you feel most comfortable with?
Anything. I could name, roller coasters, all 294 roller coasters that are now under the Six Flags umbrella. So,
all right. Well, here's a question for you. What is the longest roller coaster in the world to have at least one inversion?
Ooh, that is a great question.
And then pretend you're going down Fury 325 right now. So go ahead, answer the question.
Is it the Incredicoaster at Disney's California Adventure?
It sure is.
Yes.
Couldn't sneak that one by you.
Listen.
How about that?
How about it? I love it. Okay, anyway, Six Flags, if you're listening, Cash Coaster, bring it back. Let's make it happen. And Chris, as people who listen to this podcast know, Carowinds is in my relative backyard, 35, 40 minutes down Interstate 485. And I talk about it a lot, but it's been a little bit since we've talked specifically about Carowinds. I believe back in January, I talked to our buddy Steve Jackson about Hurler getting some RMC treatment this past winter, rather. RMC meaning routine maintenance by Carowinds. Don't get your hopes up yet, people, at all.
Hey, Hurler is offering an incredible experience right now. I'm trying to get the word out there because Hurler, they did a lot of work. They built that back curve back up from the ground up when they were redoing that work in the off season. And that was an incredible product that they ended up with. I enjoy riding Hurler. Now again, we're going to get a little bit of a tangent here. When I'm taking people around and showing them around, I say, come on, give Hurler a chance. Give Hurler a chance here for a moment. People enjoy Hurler. It's a good ride. It got regular maintenance, routine maintenance by Carowinds to continue its role as the legacy wooden roller coaster in the park. It's important to have that in the well-rounded theme park experience, and Hurler does a great job of that. You get a little bit of airtime on the hills. You get some G-forces on the curves as well. It doesn't turn left in its entire layout, but it doesn't need to.
I love it. Well, in addition, we've talked Hurler. We've talked Carowinds Summer Music Fest amplified by Coke Studio. Is that the full?
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. Listen, we're activating the brand here. This is what is happening. It's
incredible. And to work with a brand like Coca-Cola and Coke Studio to deliver this experience, it's made it that much more special. They've really brought it all together. When you are able to work with your friends like that, that makes it that much more special there too. But it's fun. They've taken it to higher heights than it ever would have been otherwise. So it's been incredible work and to be amplified by Coke Studio this summer.
I love it. But in addition to all these great things that have kind of happened, what's the rest of 2024 been like, this summer? And as we're kind of heading into the fall and winter, what is there for our audience? You and I, we're going to be excited. We're excitable people.
Yes.
We love Carowinds. It's what we do. But for those who, may be on the fence, the rest of 2024, I mean, even going back to the beginning of this season, what reasons are there for people to be excited about Carowinds right now?
Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a lot to be excited about. I mean, I think the best way to talk about everything that's exciting going on about Carowinds this year is to start with last year, because we celebrated 50 years of. You look a little crestfallen when I said. I'm going to be quick. I got to hit these points.
I understand. I get it.
50 years of Carolina Fun in 2023. It was a huge celebration. We had a firework and drone show. We opened 5 new rides as part of Aeronautica Landing, including my personal favorite of a flat ride, which is a Zamperla Air Race. So we got one of those in the park, in addition to nebulas and wind stars and a Chance Trabant and the bumper cars. We brought those back. And a disco. Can't forget about that there, too. I mean, it was a big year last year, and we were thinking, how do we follow that up? We just added 5 rides to the park, reactivated an entire area of the park by adding a theme and a story and shaded seating, everything that you need to have in a theme park experience. And we were thinking, here we go, 2024 is coming up. What happens? I mean, how do we follow up 50 years of Carolina Fun? We knew we had to do something big to start the park's next 50 years on a high note, because the park has had a very big last 15 or so years, adding coasters and water rides and seasonal events, things like that, like things called Fury 325. Not sure if you've heard of it. Copperhead Strike, Carolina Harbor. Oh, you see, you got a Fury 325, 2 Fury 325 posters behind you. I love that.
I take the audience doesn't have the benefit of the visual here, but I got to shout out our guy, Josh from Made to Thrill. He puts together some of the greatest theme park posters out there. So
I got to say,
unsponsored
really
content for Josh.
It
does. Unsponsored content for Josh, madetothrill.com. Go check that out. But what I have behind me here, Chris, I have a Fury 325 poster, and next to it, I have a Charlotte 2015 poster, because that one was not licensed. But the Fury 325 is when the parks paid him to do these things. So I'm just on the subject here. But yes, I've heard of Fury 325, very familiar, coming up on its 10th anniversary next year as well, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible aesthetic, and I'm not always well-versed in the terms of art and design, but that look of a Made to Thrill poster, you look at it and you'll say, oh, that's Made to Thrill, even if you haven't seen it before. It's very distinct, very striking, so I definitely appreciate that as well. But with the past 15 or so years at Carowinds, there's been so much going on, so much fun, so much growth. And through all of these announcements and posts and everything, we'd always hear people ask this one question: when are you bringing back the concerts? When are you bringing back these concerts? When are you going to open up the Palladium again? They'd say things like, I went to my first concert ever at Carowinds in the 80s and the 90s. I saw the Beach Boys there. I saw Jimmy Buffett there. When are you getting back to that? You have this Palladium right there by the entrance, right between the entrance and Fury 325. It's a perfect spot, great real estate. It's an incredible, enormous Palladium. What you doing over there? So it was ultimately decided to give the people what they want, what they have been asking for, which was Carowinds Summer Music Fest amplified by Coke Studio. Carowinds Summer Music Fest amplified by Coke Studio. It's a real activation of the brand, if I may. It's been so exciting. I mean, because the Palladium had been used for one-off concerts here and there, maybe an annual weekend of concerts through the late teens. Hadn't been used in a couple of years, though, with the exception of maybe a couple events here or there. Hadn't been used for a large-scale music festival operation in probably more than 20 years, if I'm thinking and remembering correctly. So to have 10 days of live music at Carowinds, that was unreal to see that come together. And we're in the midst of it right now, recording this at the end of July in 2024. Just a couple nights ago, we had Brantley Gilbert and his entire tour. He brought the whole touring production to Carowinds, and there was cryo, there was pyro. I didn't know you could do that with fire, where there was, of course, the fire bursts that go up like it's a football player emerging out of a tunnel, and they have the bursts of fire. But then they also had fire sort of fanning out. And I was like, whoa, how did they do that? I mean, sorry, I'm getting off another tangent, but it was very cool.
We're into the Carowinds Summer Music Festival, amplified by Coke Studio. Again, we're activating the brand here. But the calendar's getting ready to turn to fall. It is August as of the end of this week. So what can guests look forward to at Carowinds this fall and winter?
Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting, because we've had this enormous music festival of not only in the Palladium, but around the park, and it's all free with park admission. Had to get that in there. Couldn't forget about that. But that's not all that we're doing for this year. And I mean, it's not all of the new things that we're doing for this year as well. Of course, there's going to be Scarowinds. Scarowinds is always a good time. You got Paranormal Inc., a number of different other exciting parts of that seasonal program as well. But during the day, we're going to have plenty for families as well. There's going to be a new daytime family-friendly Halloween event called Tricks and Treats. That's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, we've seen elements of that here and there at other legacy Cedar Fair parks as well, but that's coming to Carowinds now, and that's going to bring, I think, a lot of fresh energy to the daytime fall experience, where there are going to be activities, different shows, competitions, things like that there too. It's going to be fun, and lots of reasons and opportunities to embrace fall, which is personally what I really try to do when fall time comes around, because it started to cool off a little bit. There may be some days that are here that are warm, but I don't know about you, Andrew, but I bought 8 pumpkins last year. When all was said and done, when October 31st rolled around, I had purchased 8 pumpkins, because that's how much I appreciate fall.
See, I was a first-time homeowner last fall. And so we bought 3 pumpkins to fit into the aesthetic. We also bought way too much Halloween candy, which
only 3?
Yeah, we had 3.
Those are rookie numbers.
It is rookie numbers, but listen, I can't go all out. We had a wedding I had to plan. I had all these things. So 3 pumpkins were the budget, but I bought way too many gummy bears for the trick-or-treaters. So I was eating on those like into January and February. But I'm with you. I love fall. Scarowinds is a fantastic time to visit Carowinds, if you enjoy getting a little scared with your thrills. But truly my favorite time to visit the park, believe it or not, is a time where I'm not riding anything, and that's Winterfest.
Yeah, but we're going to have Winterfest as well to close out the year. I mean, millions of lights, shows, and holiday food around every corner. That is, like you said, it's one of my favorite times to visit the park as well, because it's cooled off by now, and we may have an unseasonably warm day here and there, but those are even more special than where it maybe is in the upper 50s, lower 60s, and there you go, riding Fury 325 or other coasters around the park. I think it's a great opportunity to get those last rides in of the year. I mean, one of the most fun things about Winterfest is the New Year's Eve celebration as well. I was there at New Year's Eve last year at the end of 23. That was a party. I mean, people had those noisemakers and hats, and they were making noise. They sure were making noise. And then they had the live entertainment, the fireworks at the end of the night as well. That was a really special experience and a great way to close out the year. I'm really glad personally, between you and me, us enthusiasts, that we have opportunities to ride these coasters now much later into the year. I mean, back in the day, we'd have to say bye to our coasters around Halloween time, and that is thankfully no longer the case.
Yeah, I think there's other reasons that go on behind that, but we're not, like I said, we're not going to get into that right now. Different podcast topic. We're good. But I'm totally with you. I'm glad we get the extended season again into December and even into the new year. I don't know exactly if there's going to be a January 2025 operating day. I don't know if it's only New Year's Eve, but for at least an hour in 2025, you will get to experience Carowinds at Winterfest. So
I don't know. It's one of my favorite experiences when I'm riding Fury 325 and the sun is setting and I'm going up. I can see the Charlotte skyline in the distance. Then I'm coasting down and under the entrance, over the entrance, through the treble clef turnaround, everything like that. And it's just golden hour. I mean, there's nothing better than it. You can't beat that.
Yep. And I would be remiss. It's out there in the world on social media. August 7th, going to be a pretty big day for Carowinds. And I've seen a video circulating on social media that appears to be a scout leader of some kind, or a camp counselor, some young adult authority figure at a camp. Am I catching all the hints here? Anything else that I'm not picking up on?
No, I think you got it. I mean, it's a really fun opportunity to follow along and see what story is being told and what story is about to be told. I think that's really fun. It's fun to see those videos pop up, and I think it's where she said something like, "Camp count with, attention campers, go ahead and go to the mess hall," something like that. And then there was this big train whistle that blew and surprised the camp counselor. So I think that's a really fun opportunity to start thinking and saying, what story are they telling? What story are they telling here? I think that's really fun, and I look forward to following along.
I do too. I'm again, as enthusiasts, and you cut your teeth kind of in the industry, but at your core, Chris, we don't need to sugarcoat it. You're a coaster enthusiast. You're one of us, like shaking our fist at you. You're one of us. This time of year is a really, really good time of year.
Well, it's really fun. I mean, it's an exciting time to be a coaster enthusiast as well.
And I mean, I've got to ask, I'm going to have you take off the Carowinds hat temporarily, the metaphorical Carowinds hat that you're not
actually. Oh, it's not metaphorical. I got it right here.
Okay. Well, anyway, the hat you're wearing, we're going to take that off. We're going to put your coaster enthusiast hat on.
All right.
But have you been looking to the skies at your former place of employment, King's Dominion? Have you seen what they've been working on over there?
You see, that's the trouble with me. I mean, when I am visiting a park, even King's Dominion as well, I was just there recently, I always get so enamored by the coasters and the Dippin' Dots and the rides, and I don't take an opportunity to just stop and look up sometimes. I mean, that's just me personally. I'm always going point to point. I'm going to see a show. I'm going to enjoy my Dippin' Dots. I'm going to get in line at Flight of Fear. Then I'm going to go to ride Grizzly, which is running incredibly, by the way, that I hardly ever stop and just look up. That's ultimately going to be something that I need to work on to grow as a person, but I just don't look up sometimes when I'm at the parks.
Yeah, and I feel like, as you mentioned, Grizzly, out of respect to our collective buddy Kyle, we have to mention Gravity Group engineered pre-cut track because he loves that, and that's what's part of the reason Grizzly is running so good. We also have to compliment King's Dominion on their horticulture program, because I don't know if you've seen this on social media. They're growing some pretty interesting growth over in the Jungle X area of the park. I don't know if you saw this, these wonderful flowers and all of these social media posts, but just something you may want to consider. So,
well, horticulture is a very important role in any theme park. I mean, it really builds it out. Their parks, that's in the name. So to be able to have a thriving horticulture program and to make these parks really built out in that sense, I think that really speaks to an investment in the park experience. So I am always a fan of great landscaping.
Landscaping projects, they will always be top tier. And when you've got the Legacy Cedar Fair, currently Six Flags Entertainment Corporation parks behind it, it's gonna be a win. So especially you pay a little more attention to your landscaping, great things will come. Be honest with you.
Well, I mean, there was one time I do have to shout out Carowinds horticulture and landscaping team. They, in the Carolina Boardwalk section of the park, have built these planters that, I mean, like, they look like they've been there for 50 years. They make so much sense there. What I'm literally talking about horticulture here, by the way. This is not because it's such a good opportunity that adds a surface area where we had the existing tree planters there, and then they built sort of maybe like a wedding cake tier structure within the planter. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks natural and it looks like it's been there forever, and it really adds these levels to the park that you're encountering. So I always got to give them a shout out for the great work that they do. It's incredible when springtime comes around, things come back to life, and you're like, wow, the park is looking good. So definitely got to give a shout out to the horticulture team for their work.
I love it. Well, Chris, before we put this podcast to bed, anytime I have a guest on the show, I like to give them the opportunity to plug anything they want to plug. And given that you are the guest on this show, I would like to afford you the same opportunity. So anything you want to plug before we put this to bed?
Sure. I mean, we briefly touched on it before with the Silver. No, I'm not going to go to Silver Pass. We've already talked about how great a value that is. Gold Pass especially, too, if you want to add Carowinds and Winterfest and Tricks and Treats. But what would I want to plug? I mean, Charlotte FC is always a great time. I think Major League Soccer, with the expansion that they have had and adding Charlotte FC, adding these other teams, adding these matches, adding these matches to their year. I mean, they have a long season. They opened up the season in late February. They're going to be running at least through home matches in Charlotte all the way through early October. I think that's a great way to have an affordable, family-friendly, fun experience. So I didn't come into this podcast expecting to plug Major League Soccer, but I'd say go ahead and check your local market. They've been adding a lot of clubs there. They're in Nashville now. They're in Cincinnati, L.A., New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia as well. They're all over the place. So I guess that's what I'll use my time is to talk season passes and then talk soccer or football, really. They're good times.
I love it. And a lot of times in those MLS markets, there's a theme park there. So, kill two birds with one stone. Go, have some family fun at the stadium, at the pitch, if you will, and then go ride a roller coaster or two. Activating brands all along the way. So, Chris,
it's about synergy when it comes down to it.
Synergy, and we're going to circle back on all this later, all these other corporate America terms.
Any turnbacks?
No turnbacks.
Let's close the loop on this.
Yeah, we're going to close the loop on this podcast, but go visit Carowinds, carowinds.com, at Carowinds, pretty much everywhere you can consume social media. And anywhere you find Carowinds on social media, you'll also find Coaster101. That's Coaster 101. We also have a website, Coaster101.com. Has some really, really great articles. I'm not just saying that because I write them. I'm just saying that because most people seem to enjoy them. Have a merchandise store as well, c101.co/tpublic. There's some real life inspired Coaster 101 merch. There's some coaster inspired Coaster 101 merch. Go check that out. And if you're listening, make sure you're liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing, and telling your friends to listen, because the more people who listen, we will continue to get great guests like Chris. So keep listening. And also, while you're here, go listen to the back catalog of Corkscrew Convos, specifically the episode about Dark Coaster, the B&M Coaster Draft, something about the Pinehurst Barbecue Festival. I think that might be all of them that I've been on, maybe another one here or there.
There was one episode where you were the mediator between DJ and myself. It was right before the Super Bowl. Me, the Eagles fan, DJ, the Chiefs fan. We needed a neutral, unbiased third party, and you filled that role masterfully. So thank you for that.
So there you go. There's at least 4 episodes of Corkscrew Convos, but they've got a very deep back catalog as well. So go check that out. And head to Carowinds this season. Tricks and Treats Fall Fest, Carowinds, Winterfest. There's a big announcement next week if you're listening to this on time. So stay tuned for that as well. And with that, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Coaster 101 podcast. And we will talk to you soon. See ya.